Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this lesson we're going to talk about the workplace. So, you found a job. What do you do next? Well, there are a lot of things that you need to learn in order to be effective in every different workplace. There are things like etiquette, how the workplace communicates, the organization of the workplace, filling out the forms that you have to fill out, understanding your pay and your benefits, understanding how to take time off, the safety related to that workplace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a lot of things that you need to learn whenever you get a new job. The first step in learning how all of these things work in your place of business is you have to find someone to help you. Find a guide. Find a person that knows everything and is willing to teach you all the things that you need in order to do well, right? How do I clock in if I'm being paid hourly? How do I contact the IT department whenever I have a problem with my computer? How do I route documents up through the management chain? You know, I have this thing I need to get to my boss's boss's boss. How do I get it up there? How do I work the coffee machine, right? How do I tap on the vending machine the right way to get free cookies, right? Find the person at the office that knows everything and ask them a bunch of questions. Don't be afraid to annoy people with your questions. You're learning. That's how you learn, is by asking questions, asking for help. Always return the favor though, right? So once you learn something, and if someone asks, be sure to return the favor. Remember what it's like to be the new guy or girl. So let's talk about workplace safety. Every workplace has a specific safety standard that they have to meet. Even if you're just working in an office, there are safety things that you have to consider in order to do your job effectively and not get hurt and not hurt anyone else. Now, not all workplaces are offices with cushy chairs and water coolers. Some of you are going to be doing jobs in pretty dangerous environments. So you need to know how to keep yourself safe in those environments. So here's a few tips. Number one, keep your work area clean. That's the first step, right? If your work area is, if you've got food all over the place and wrappers and, I don't mean like rappers like musicians. I mean like food wrappers. Or you have soda and it spills on the floor that creates a tripping hazard or a slip and fall hazard. Make sure your area is clean. Don't use any equipment you're not qualified to operate. If you're working in a place that has heavy equipment or any equipment at all, really, and if you don't know how to use it, stay away from it. Don't operate equipment you don't know how to use. Know what to do in an emergency. Every workplace should have an emergency plan, evacuation plan. It should have a plan for what to do in an earthquake, what to do in an active shooter situation. Know those plans, right? Usually this gets taught to you during your orientation. Sometimes it gets forgotten. Find it out. Seek out that information because it's important for you to know. And if you have any questions or concerns about the safety of the workplace, speak up. Say something to somebody. And if you don't feel like they took you seriously enough, talk to somebody else. Keep talking about it until someone takes it seriously. Safety is incredibly important. You would much rather be annoying than someone to get hurt because you were too afraid to say something. Organization. You need to keep your work area clean and neat. Organize your work area as often as you can. This helps your reputation as a professional because professionalism means that you are keeping your work area clean, you're keeping yourself clean, and you're paying attention to how you represent yourself in the office. But a clean workstation also makes for a more efficient workflow, right? You can find documents easier. You're not losing things as often. Things aren't getting thrown in the trash when they shouldn't be. So keep yourself organized. Keep your files, drawers, and desktop free from clutter. Now by files, I mean your computer files as well, right? So if you're using a computer in your office, make sure you keep that computer as free of clutter as you possibly can. Simply put, your boss should never see your desk and think that you might be unorganized, right? Your boss should see that there's work being done, but they shouldn't see a disorganized mess that makes you look unprofessional. Attention to detail goes a really long way in those professional relationships that you're building. Computers. Most workplaces use computers. They use computers, printers, other IT devices. Treat these devices with respect. These are expensive, and if you break it because you're neglecting that item, then you just cost the company money, right? Find out who to contact if you have a computer or printer issue. This should be one of the first things you do on the job, is figure out who do you need to contact if you have an issue with a computer or a printer. Don't just ask the same guy every time who happens to be kind of savvy with computers. He may get frustrated because he's, doing this for you instead of doing his job. I'm speaking a little bit from experience here. Every company has someone that they've hired to manage their IT systems. Find out who that person is, send them the information they need. Don't pick on the guy who's a little bit tech savvy in the next cubicle over. Do not try to fix the computer on your own. Don't open up the computer, go, oh, hey, it's probably just a bad RAM stick. I know how to fix that. Let me pop this baby open, and don't. You don't own that computer. Your company does, all right? And so let them fix the computer. Don't try to dig into it and fix it yourself. It's also important that you keep your computer's hard drive free of clutter, and you don't put personal files on your computer that's owned by your company, okay? I think this goes without saying. Don't put any of your nasty personal files on your computer either, obviously, right? Professionalism. User agreements. So every company and school has a detailed computer use agreement. And if you're thinking, Mr. Storm, I don't think we have a computer use agreement at UMA, or at least I've never seen it. Well, yes, you have. It's in your documents that you sign whenever you become a cadet here at UMA. Read that document. It's important that you know what's in there, because that document is going to tell you exactly what you're allowed to do with the computers in your workplace. And more importantly, what you're not allowed to do, right? Are you allowed to shop on Amazon during work time with a work computer? I don't know. Some workplaces might be fine with that. Others not so much. You don't want to get in trouble for something that you should have known, but you neglected to read. What about personal emails, right? Maybe you're sending a personal email to your friend with a work computer from a work email address. That might be against your user agreement that you've signed. So common forms. When you start a new job, you're going to get a lot of forms thrown at you. You're going to be signing a lot of things. So here are some of the forms that you're going to see and why they're important. So the I-9 form. This is an employment eligibility verification form. It's mandatory for all new employees in the United States. And this form verifies that you're legally able to work in the United States. So employers are required by the INS, Immigration and Nationalization Service, to keep these files on record so they can determine that everyone who's working at a company is an American citizen or allowed to work in the United States, even if they're not. So you must show all documentation requested by your employer to be eligible to work, such as identification or work visas. So usually this is why employers will ask for your driver's license on day one, right? It's because they're filling out the form I-9 and keeping that on record so they can prove that you are eligible to work in the United States. Form W-4. As an employee living in the United States, you are required to pay federal income tax. Everyone pays most people pay federal income tax. Some people figure out ways to get around it. But you are required to pay federal income tax on all the money that you make. Employers will withhold a portion of your paycheck to pay your tax debt for you. All right. So you will allow them to take a certain amount of money out of your check, hold on to that, and then they will pay that money to the government on your behalf. And then whenever you file your taxes at the end of the year, you will say, hey, I already paid this much. My employer paid this much for me. And so how much left do I owe, right? Now, the way you indicate how much money you want to come out of your check to pay your taxes is with this Form W-4. This form will be filed with the IRS along with your withheld tax. When it comes time to file your taxes, your employer will issue you the companion form to this, the Form W-2, which says how much money did you make and how much tax was already paid on your behalf, and how much did you pay in Social Security, how much did you pay in disability insurance, yada, 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 all that stuff. W-2s are incredibly important. Whenever you get them, keep them because you need them to file your taxes. If you don't have your W-2, you cannot accurately file your taxes every year, and you're going to kind of be stuck. So make sure you keep your W-2s. So withholding. Let's talk about the withholding section of the W-4. The amount of tax that is withheld from your paycheck, it's calculated by you, the employee. You must claim your withholding allowances based on your current lifestyle. So, for example, if you're married and you have 2 children, you may claim fewer allowances because your tax burden is going to be lower at the end of the year. But if you're single, you have no dependents, you might want to withhold more money from your paycheck because you're going to have to pay more taxes when you file. And so if you withhold more up front, then that's going to pay more of your tax bill at the end of the year. The important thing is that you learn how to do your taxes and you learn about what your withholding should be before you fill out your W-4. There are a lot of resources online to help. Also, pay attention in your Math for Personal Finance class or your, financial literacy class. Pay attention to those classes. They'll talk more about these things. So let's talk about what your paycheck is going to look like. You might be confused when you look at your first paycheck. There's not just a number that says, this is how much money you have. You're going to get a pay statement that has how much you made during that last pay period, as well as any taxes and fees that have been deducted, plus other things like federal income tax, state income tax, Medicare, Social Security, unemployment, health insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of stuff on your pay statement. Make sure you understand what the pay statement, what it's saying. Look at each of those boxes and try to figure out what it is. If you see something strange on your pay statement and it doesn't look accurate, you need to go talk to the HR department or the person who's completing payroll. There may have been an error somewhere. So, your first week on the job can be a bit confusing. Don't get discouraged. Everyone feels a little out of place every time they start a new job. Pay attention to what you're reading. Make sure you know what you're signing. Make sure you protect yourself when it comes to your paycheck. Sign all your documents correctly. Find someone that you're comfortable asking for help and stick to them like glue until you feel more comfortable. And before you know it, you're going to be the person walking the new guy around, showing him the ropes. All right. Thanks for paying attention. This is Mr. Storm, and I'll see you next time.